Hey everyone, and welcome to my craft room. My name's Julianne Richards, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in southern Tasmania. These are the tutorial videos for my November product class, and this month we are featuring and I probably should have it in the camera at the moment, the Christmas Seasons bundle. This is the stamp set here that we're going to be using today for the class. I should get the dies out as well because we're going to need dies. Very, very handy dies, these ones. We've got some very nice sentiment boxes that I think I'll probably use all year round. So they're seasonal labels dies that comes with the Christmas season stamp set in the Christmas season bundle. So this is the one that you hopefully have got. You may have a little bit of trouble putting these cards together if you haven't. If you've just got the stamp set, that's fine. You can do totally everything that you see here, but you're going to have to fussy cut your images as you go. And they're not that bad. They're not sort of really, it's not fussy cutting that as bad as it could be, but yeah, so it'll be fine. But hopefully you've got the bundle and we can get going with that. Okay, so as usual, I'll do 3 shorter videos just so you can come back and know which video you're watching, so you don't have to scroll through an hour video if you have to stop halfway. So I'll do 3 videos and then I'll have in the break in between, I have a bit of a clean up and get my stamps and things ready for the next one so we're not mucking around too much. Anyway, so we'll do these are our 3 cards in your kit. A full-size kit will have 2 of each of these. If you bought the half kit, there'll be 1 of each of these. So, yeah, so they're lovely cards and it will be perfectly timed for Christmas this year. Okay, so we'll start with our first card, and I thought I'd do this one, which is quite pretty, but it's probably the simplest of the 3 cards we're doing today, so we'll do this one. This can be our card number 1. Okay, so we've got, just to show you what we've got here, we've got a square panel of basic white, and these are actually all stamped on as in a wreath formation, so they're all the various images out of the stamp set, and then the position of this little circle and scalloped backing circle on the top of that, so you don't see any of your mucky ends. A little bit of a ribbon there to create the wreath sort of look, and it's all on a evening evergreen card base. Okay, so your kit should look something like this, and if it doesn't, please reach out. I never know, people don't tell me they're missing things, so I'm always assuming that I've got everything in the kit that you need, and if I haven't, please reach out. I don't like anyone to be disappointed that I've missed something out, and I will make it up to you. So be careful with all my kits, always be very careful when you get things out, because you're going to have your little embellishments and things like that are going to fall on the floor and you're not going to know whether you've had them or not. With this one, you've got 3 embellishments per card, so if you've got the full-size kit, you'll have 6 of those, and there's some lovely cherry cobbler matte dots there. You'll have a card base, which is, as I mentioned, is evening evergreen, and it is 9 inches by 4.5 and scored at 4.5. So you've basically got a 4.5 square card base. Now it's up to you to decide whether you want it to be a landscape card or a portrait card. It's entirely up to you, but you probably need to choose which way you want to go before you get started, or at least before you start not pinning things down or gluing things down. My phone's just gone ping. Okay, so then you've also got 2 panels of basic white, one for the front, which is what we're going to be doing our stamping on, and obviously one for the middle for our personal message and a little bit more stamping if you'd like. Okay, you've also got a length of the beautiful evening evergreen ribbon, which is the in colour for this year, which I didn't actually like to start with, I have to admit. We've got a scalloped circle in the evening evergreen and another one in the basic white. So that should be everything you need for per card. If you've got the double kit, you've obviously got quite a lot of ribbon. I've cut this one into 2 bits, but you'll have quite a long piece of ribbon, and you only need to make a bow, so half and half for your bow. I'll pop this one back. This is for the other half of the kit. which I'm hoping to give away to a lucky customer. So if someone places an order this week, that's their half kit there. Okay, so let's pop everything aside. Make sure I only use half the embellishments there. We'll keep the one panel that we're going to do our stamping on, and we'll get started. And I'll just make sure that that's not a really, wasn't an overly important message. Just with my dad unwell, I tend to jump on messages as soon as they come in, because you really never know what they're going to be. Okay, so we've got our, just take my glasses off. We've got our panel of basic white and our little circle of basic white as well. So what I'm going to do, so I can position mine, I'll bring the original card back in. You can see that the wreath effect is all around the edge of the circle. So we know where to stamp, I'm actually going to mark the edges of the circle on my cardstock just with some very light pencil marks, and that'll tell me where to start, to do the stamping. So really I'm just going to mark north, south, east and west, yeah, and just the lightest. You're going to cover all this with ink anyway, so don't worry too much. You might like to, just if you're a little bit unsure, just add a few more bits of the compass there, and you'll know where to stay within. So there you are. Just bring that so you can see we've got some little dots there, so we know that that's where our circle is going to go. So because our scalloped circle is slightly larger, because it's larger when we set it down onto there, even if you were worried about your pencil marks, because this one's slightly larger, it covers them completely anyway. So we'll go with that. Okay, so you can use whatever colours you like, obviously. I'm going to show you the ones that I'm using. And we're using a variety of new in colours and some old favourites as well. Let's see, what have we got? So we've got soft succulent, which I'm going to do this one here in. We've got garden green, which I'm going to do, get right to the end. We've got pear pizzazz, which I'm going to do this sort of little what would you call that? Sort of pine needles. And the sun's come in now. I'm going to have to close my blinds so the sun doesn't cause issues. Apologies for that. It might go a little bit dark temporarily while my camera adjusts itself. Or it might just stay dark, but at least it's not got blotchy sun. That's probably preferable to blotchy sun. Okay, we've got the little berries, the little holly berries, and I'm going to put them, violet berries. I'm going to do those in, of course, cherry cobbler. And the little stems for the holly berries, I'm going to do in, actually on my original I did it on early espresso and I thought it was a little bit dark, so I'm going to do them on your card. I'm going to do them in garden green. And finally, we've got the little dots. There's just a little dot in the stamp set, and I'm just going to fill in the gaps if I find that I have any, and I'm going to do that in evening evergreen. So there's a whole lot of very Christmassy colours there. So when you're doing this, I find it actually easier just to pick one of your images, probably the one, and that you sort of like a fair bit. I'm going to use this one and use that as the basis for fitting everything else in, if that makes sense. So you put it evenly spaced around your circle, and then you can fit everything else in around it because you've got to point that as a point of reference. So this is the one I'm doing in soft succulent, and basically positioning on or near our little dots that we've put on the cardstock. You're just following it around with the stamp, just creating that sort of circular sort of effect. So that one's my sort of south one. I'm going to put one up here. This is my north one, which starts at the north dot anyway. And I have another one that starts at my east dot. And another one that starts at my, no, that was my west dot. And another one that starts at my east dot. That makes sense. There we go. And I've got a splodge. That's all right. As long as you guys don't get splodges, we'll be fine. Remember, cardstock has two sides. If you do a splodge, If you're worried about it, just flip your cardstock over. That takes you for a certain amount of time anyway. Okay, so that's sort of the start. Now all we need to do now is build up our other images all around this start we've made here. So I'll get rid of that. Next thing we'll do is bring in the Pear Pizzazz and the Pine Needles one. I know Pine Needles are usually a bit darker than that, but I didn't want too much of the early evening evergreen in this one because it does tend to overshadow things a bit. So all I'm going to do now is just sort of create that, keep filling in that wreath sort of look with the different images. I've got that one there. Now, if you have a Stamparatus, I'm sure you could get your Stamparatus out and rotate things, and that would be absolutely wonderful. But in this case, because I'm just making the one card, I'm not going to worry too much about that. Okay, so what I might do again, and I've noticed that I'm sort of filling in the spaces with stamped off versions of the same images. So I'm going to, this is the Pear Pizzazz, stamp it off once and then pop it on again. And that just sort of fills in the spaces as well. So it looks like you've got, your wreath has many, many sort of layers. If you were confident, you probably could have gone, you know, done the full strength one and then the lighter one and then the full strength and then re-inked and done them all the way around. But just wanted to show you how we were building it up without getting too complicated. Okay, so next thing we probably want to do, and actually I might do the same as I've just done, bring back in our soft succulent and do a stamped off versions of that original stamp that we had. Again, if you were confident, you could go full strength and then stamped off. But maybe on your second card, if you've got the double kit, that's what you could do. And it just fills in the images so you've got no sort of blank looking spaces. Okay, so we now might bring in our, what have we got to bring in? Our stems. Yep, we'll bring in our stems next for our holly. So we're going to do that in the garden green. And again, just sort of sticking their little edges into the circle and their berries on the outside. And then we'll come back in with the actual berries themselves. We've got 3 there, but I think that's probably, I probably should have had another one. There's 3. We'll go for 3. I should have probably put 4, but that's okay. We'll bring in our cherry cobbler, and this is going to be our berries. Now the berries have a certain orientation that I have to have a little bit of a fiddle with because I keep forgetting which way they should go. So the little berries themselves just sit on the top of those little stalks. That's it there. You have to orientate it so that the berries line up with the appropriate stalk ends. Just have a bit of a rotate, and I'm sure if I can work it out, you guys can work it out. Okay, there we are. Okay, this one's very different to my first one. I think I've done something quite a little bit different, which is weird because I thought I'd used exactly the same colours, but I'm not. I do like it, so I'm not going to worry too much. Okay, so let's bring in our little dots and our evening evergreen. And we're just going to bring in the dots just wherever you think it needs a little bit of extra colour or detail. You don't have to stick to a sort of a pattern or a particular position. Just wherever you feel you could do with some extra stuff happening. So I think I'm going to bring back, and this is the good thing with these colours, you can sort of bring them back with different emphasis or different sort of, they look very different if you bring them back with different colours. I've got the, what's this one that we decided, pine needles one, and I've got my garden green. And I just think I need something a little bit stronger. So I'm just going to bring in, and that does look very strong, doesn't it? Just going to bring in a little bit of that. And remember, we're going to be covering the centre with our circle anyway, so we're only really getting, you know, the outside colours. I just felt that I needed a little bit of something darker. Okay, that's probably enough. Okay, so let's do that. So when we bring back our little circle, as you'll see, we'll cover it over that messy stuff. And this is probably a good chance to see whether you think you've gone a little bit light on one side or you need a little bit more of something. So I think I need another one of those dark pine needle stamps over here. If it doesn't actually come out enough, so I think I need one there. Yeah, that's better. When you cover it over, you can see now I've got this nice even sort of wreath effect around the edge of that little circle there. Okay, that's good. And as I say, always different. Same colours, and it always comes out so different, which is the great thing about crafting and card making in particular. I'm just going to try and find my mono rubber, just try and get that splodge off, because it's going to, even though it's just a demonstration, it's going to bother me that it's there. I'll find my rubber, hopefully it'll get the ink off. Stampin' Up don't sell the mono rubbers, but you can get them on, you know, any craft store, or, and it's just, it's got sort of a more, can't go too crazy with it because you will take the top coating of your paper off with it, but it does bring off splodges when you've done them. They may annoy you, like that one was annoying me. Awesome. Okay, cool. So let's keep on with this one. So what I'm going to do now, make sure I get rid of my little rubber bits because it's going to go everywhere. I might pop my sentiment on my little white box. So I'm going to put my sentiment in something nice and strong, the Evening Evergreen. And I'm going to use this is May This Be a Christmas to Remember and Cherish. Now, the pine cone or Christmas season stamp set, as you can tell, doesn't have any sentiments in it. So with this particular class, you can use whatever sentiment you like. The sort of sister, brother, cousin, or matching stamp set that has the sentiments with this particular bundle is the Christmas to Remember. It's a nice little stamp set just to buy on its own. And I'm going to use from this one, May This Be a Christmas to Remember and Cherish. So we'll do that. And I'm doing, as I say, doing it in my Evening Evergreen. My dog started to bark, and it's not dinner time yet. She's barking earlier. The good thing with circles is it doesn't really matter if you're straight because the circle has no edges. That's fine. As long as you're roughly in the middle, you can get away with just about anything. Okay, so that's my little sentiment there. And just glue that little sentiment onto its serrated friend. So we've just got a tiny bit of the Evening Evergreen cardstock popping out at the edge, just like that. And then the whole thing can sit on the centre of the little wreath that you've made. So at this point, you have to decide whether you're going to have your card as a landscape card. Well, I suppose it could actually. It depends what you actually where you stick this after you've stuck it. Sorry, I'm going to pop that on there. So just glue that on as well. You could use dimensionals if you wanted to. Just try and get that in the centre of the little wreath that you've stamped. Like that. And then this is the point you have to decide which orientation you want your card. If you want your card to be a portrait card, you'll have it that way. If you want it to be a landscape card, you'll have it that way. I actually think even though it's a square card, landscape cards sit nicer. So I'm actually going to do this one so it opens side by side rather than up and down. It just makes it easier to put them on the shelf and not have them collapse flat. Too much glue there and not in all the right places. Finger in the way. So making sure you've got it opening the right way so it'll fly there. Go away, it'll fly. And on there like that. Cool. So we're going to pop our little correspondingly similar white cardstock inside. And they should be exactly the same size so you can have the same border around the edge. You can pop another sentiment in there. Bring in some stamps from the outside, some holly or something like that. Here we are. And then the last thing we need to do is make ourselves second last, make ourselves a little bow. Hopefully you've got enough ribbon, or you can trim it down if it's too big. The bow is too big. Don't go too crazy big with the bow. Just a nice little size. Okay. Now grab a glue dot or your favourite adhesive for this sort of thing. I'm going to pop that just on the top of our make it look like a little door hanging wreath, sort of popular at Christmas time. There's my dots. Put that up there. Now we can use our little embellishments. So these are little matte enamel dots, and these are in the cherry cobbler colour. Some of you who ordered a little bit late may have green, the evening evergreen ones, but they're just as nice. But they're really sort of just lovely on they're not too blingy, but they're sort of really earthy, which I really like. So just pop them as you like around your card. Make sure I leave those ones because that's the half kit there. It's those ones are left for the other half of the kit. Okay, so there we are. So there's our first little card. We'll call that card number 1 of our November Christmas season card class. Okay, so nice. Now, one tip if you actually wanted to, and if you've got a favourite embellishing folder at home, once you've done all that stamping, just pop the white panel through a sort of embossing folder like a Tasteful Textures or something with a sort of a grainy sort of papery sort of look, and you'll notice that it'll change the card completely. I really, really like to pop stamped cards through the embossing folder, but obviously I couldn't for the class because you guys have to stamp it first. But there you are. So for card number 1, pop that back. Ready for the person who takes this one. And yeah, that's a bit of a clean up, and then I'll come back with card number 2. Okay,